So I just finished the book called Out of Oz by Gregory MaGuire, and if you were unaware of that, Gregory MaGuire is the same author of the Wicked movie, or well, he's not really affiliated with the movie, but he wrote the book that it's based off of, and I think that came out in 1995, the original Wicked, and he is continued with other fairy tales like Cinderella and Snow White, doing like taking children's fairy tales that are meant for children and rewriting them for adults. Mostly, like, that's his main, I don't know, genre or style or whatever. But this is the Wizard of Oz series has continued, and there's multiple like, there was the Wicked and there's Son of a Witch, there's a Lion Among Men, and now Out of Oz, this one, I guess there are 4 books, but I've read 2 of those. I read the original Wicked, which is, how the movie is supposed to be, the movie that's popular now with Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo. But I skipped over the Son of a Witch and the Lion Among Men, and just went to Out of Oz, the 4th of that series, because I honestly didn't really know about the other 2 before, but it's what the library had, so whatever. And this is about this page shows the Wicked series. So you can see there's Wicked, and then there's how Dorothy gets there, and she's 10 at the Wizard of Oz, the original of Frank L. Baum thing. Then Son of a Witch, when Lear, her son, is 14, and Lion Among Men was about the Cowardly Lion, but this one was Out of Oz. So, since most people, I'm guessing, are not gonna read this, like, even though that author, Gregory MaGuire, is getting a, like, revamp now that the movie adaptation of his book is out now. Well, this book is actually 560 pages. Yeah, the whole thing is 560 pages, so it was one of the more frustrating books for me to read, or not really frustrating, but it was like, wow, it was a piece of work. I'll say a piece of work. Like, actually, in the story, at one point, the Cowardly Lion tells Dorothy, has anyone ever told you that you're a piece of work? So, well, since most people aren't willing to sit down for 560 pages of nonsense, I'm gonna, try to describe best I can how the story goes. So, it starts at a MaGuire Hall, which is like a villa or a set of apartment buildings for Glinda. Remember Glinda from, like, the, I guess, opponent of Elphaba. And Glinda, she was the ruler of Oz for a brief while. After the Wizard of Oz was disposed of in the events of Wizard of Oz, they needed a new leader, and I think Glinda took that position for a small while, but it might have been like 8 months, 1.5 years, or something like that. Like, whenever characters talk about it, they say it was quite brief, so obviously it's not it wasn't really, I don't know, she wasn't in power for very long. Then Shelthrop is the last remaining Throp. Remember, after the two sisters were killed, Nesteros and Elphaba, well, they had a third sibling called Shell, a brother, and he was the youngest, the last one born, and at this point, he is the Emperor of Oz, of Loyal Oz. He is, I guess, took the place of the Wizard of Oz, and, well, I guess Nesteros was the catalyst for the, Munchkin Land to break away from Oz, from Loyal Oz. So, yes, now there are two separate countries. There's Loyal Oz and there's Munchkin Land. And so yeah, I was saying the story starts out about MaGuire Hall, where Glinda resides with. She has a team of staff. Like, I think one's a chambermaid and one's a personal chef, and I think a courier to help her make fashionable outfits, and some other people. Like, I think she had a pretty large staff, but then once the war is starting, because Munchkinland and Loyal Oz are going to war, preparing for war. Sergeant Cherrystone and I guess the rest of his army are going to take control of the residents of MaGuire Hall and use it for watering their horses, because it is close to I think Restwater Lake, Restwater Lake, and well, Cherrystone tells Glinda that she has to get rid of a few of her staff members to be just like a skeleton crew, 2 or 3 people, or so she heaps Rain on. Rain is the youngest by far. Rain's only maybe 8, 9, or 10 years old. It's not really clarified, but she might be 8, 9, or 10 years old, and she still doesn't know her letters, so she's illiterate. She can't read at all. She can't read at all, so she gives Sergeant Cherrystone the task of starting to teach her her letters. And I don't know how good she becomes at reading, but so he does include a I guess family tree of the important families in here. There's the Upland family, so Glinda's House of Ozma, so the original rulers of Oz, and the Throps, where Elphaba came from. I guess, yeah, everyone was killed off except for Shell. Then, Lear was Elphaba's only kid, and Lear had that daughter Rain, and, yes, a lot of people would like to know that, we know that Elphaba was green. The original Wicked Witch of the West, she had green skin. That was, I guess, the biggest way for people to, profile her, know who she was, because obviously there's no one else is green. But her son Lear was not green at all. His skin was just normal, milky white. And, but his daughter, so Elphaba's granddaughter, she was born green. Rain is Elphaba's granddaughter. Rain is part of the Throp family, and so she is green. Her father was Fiero Tigalar. Yeah, that's his name, Tigalar. So I mean, since her father was Fiero Tigalar, then maybe her last name, Rain's last name, should be also Tigalar, but I don't know. They didn't seem to embrace that at all. They called her by a few names. They called her Rain Throp because she's from Throp family. Rain Co because the castle that she owns is Camoko. And I think that was it. So as the army of Loyal Oz is preparing for the war, and Glinda promises that if you teach Rain her letters, if you keep teaching Rain to read, then I will take it upon myself to learn to cook a meal, because I guess Glinda's so privileged that she has never really had to cook for herself. So and Glinda does have possession of the Grimoire, the book that allowed Elphaba to turn the regular monkeys into flying monkeys. So Glinda does now have the book, the Grimoire, and remember one spell she read from it, because she realizes that now, like 10 years after Elphaba's death, she is better at reading it. As if like through age she has just become more talented or something. So the spell she read goes Traversa Unicular it was Traversa Samiad Unicular Ordicusta. Traversa Samiad Unicular Ordicusta. And by the way, it's Samiad was Psammyad. For whoever really cares about that. It's for bring winter onto water. That was the intent of the spell. To bring winter onto water, so to make liquids freeze. And I think she used some other spell, I don't really know the spell, that made the book disguise itself as a cookbook. So, it could sit on the shelf without being recognized as the Grimoire. And then Rain and some other members of staff, like Mr. Boss, have to go and try to keep the Grimoire and the Clock of the Time Dragon safe and secret from the people looking for it. So they take the clock and the Grimoire, and see, the troop was made up of Rain, the youngest. She is just a little girl at this point, and Mr. Boss, who's a dwarf, not a munchkin, not like the munchkins of Munchkinland, but a dwarf, so like just a short human. And his wife was Little Daffy. I think her real name is Daffodil. Yeah, her full name is Daffodil, but they call her Little Daffy because, I don't know, it's just a nickname. And there was a Skinnery, who is a talking goose. Yes, talking goose, I think. Burr met up with him. Burr is the name of the Cowardly Lion, from the original Wizard of Oz, the Scarecrow, Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion. Well, yeah, the Cowardly Lion showed up in this one. His name was Burr. Just Brrr. That's at least that's how it's written. And Burr does eventually become the new ruler of Oz. I guess after the war. So they're walking around the whole Oz country for a while, and like they go to Quadling country for a while, and they pick up some race otters, like a whole horde of or herd of race otters starts following them because whatever, and there's this one particular race otter that starts taking a liking to Rain because whatever, and she names the race otter Tay. It's never revealed whether it's really a male or female race otter, but like it matters. Yeah, so her otter is named Tay, and well, you should know that uh um Rain's parents are Lear and Candle. They're named Lear and Candle. And when they saw that their daughter was born green, well, at first Lear, the father, just wanted to hide her away or whatever, but they knew that would make her a target, a huge target, because obviously everyone's trying to look for the descendants of the Wicked Witch, mostly because some high-ranking officials, such as Glenda and others, are obsessed with the Grimoire. They know that the Grimoire has a lot of power, and well, since they are fighting a war, it'd be a huge advantage to be able to use the spells of the Grimoire. I know Mambe is, I guess, the witch of the Munchkin Land, so Munchkin Land has its own, I guess, high general or major called Mambe, La Mambe, because I don't know what she's, yeah, she's sort of like witch. She's used a few spells in this, like, disguising spells and stuff, but, so, of course, everyone's after the Grimoire, and, oh yeah, someone else in that, troop was, Burr's wife was Eleonora. Her full name is Eleonora, but everyone calls her Nor. She's the aunt of, Rain. So she's, I think, Lear's sister. Yeah, she's Lear's sister, because Fiyero had, I think, like 6 children. So yes, Burr and Eleonora or Nor are with them, and well, Dorothy does show up again. Remember the human world. There's one chapter that takes place in the human world. So Dorothy, ever since her first trip to Oz, and her family was kind of relieved. I didn't think they expected her to be dead after being taken by that tornado, but so they were very glad to get her back. But since she won't stop talking about the Oz, like she's obsessed with the whole Oz thing, and she talks about the Munchkins, the Emerald City, and everything. And of course, no one else knows anything about that. Like they think she's just making up some fantasy or whatever. So all the kids at school, they call her Dorothy Dodo. Like she's dumb as a Dorothy Dodo. So of course all the kids at school, they think she is very strange, and maybe like the sun turned her crazy. She was touched by the sun, and so no one walks home with her. So she's very lonely, and well, her aunt and Uncle Henry and Aunt Em, they wanna get her to stop being so obsessed with the whole Oz, this fantasy she made up about Oz, and they want to show her that the real world has stuff that's just as amazing. So it starts out that they are taking a train ride from I guess, all the way from Kansas or the mountains through the fields of like Nebraska and the Midwest to San Francisco. Yeah, their destination was San Francisco. Their destination was San Francisco, and so they do get a hotel in San Francisco, and Aunt Em starts sleeping when Uncle Henry and Dorothy are they just continue to like walk out on the town, and I think Dorothy wants to see the ocean, and they do end up going to a Chinese restaurant. They end up going to a Chinese restaurant, and at the end, well, you know how they give out fortune cookies at Chinese restaurants. They usually do. So Uncle Henry and Dorothy do get their fortune cookies, and let's see, I think Dorothy's was my mind a kingdom. My mind to me a kingdom is such present joys therein I find that it excels all other bliss that earth affords or grows by kind. That's by Sir Edward Dyer. I guess originally they used poetry lines. And let's see, Uncle Henry's was mid pleasure and passes, though we may roam, be it ever so humble, there's no place like home. By John Howard Payne. So I guess whatever that's just poetry, I guess, back then. And well, later that night, Dorothy wants to go up on the roof of the skyscraper they're staying in, and she takes the elevator to the roof. And when she was at the Chinese restaurant, they also give her a cricket in a cage, little cage, because cricket in a cage, I've never really heard about that. I guess I've seen it in like stories, movies, TV, but I don't think anyone do that. But I don't know what the significance of her being given a cricket is. And she did have Toto with her, the dog, so she had the dog with her. And they went up to the roof of the skyscraper, I think. Dorothy sat over the edge to look at the ocean. And then she does, she goes back in the elevator and she's heading down, but like all of a sudden there was like an earthquake because, you know, they're in San Francisco and prone to earthquakes. So the week that they happen to be on vacation in San Francisco happens to be when San Francisco is punished with an earthquake. So, you know, the elevator falls, like Toto, the cricket, and Dorothy fall, and I guess they fell all the way to the bottom, and that's how Dorothy got back to Oz for the second time. I mean, I don't think anyone would survive, like, you know, being in an elevator at the top or close to the top of a very tall building, and then presumably having an earthquake drop you to the bottom. So, but Dorothy is in Oz now, and well, she is 16 at this point. So in the original Wizard of Oz, she was 10 years old, and now she is 16, at least in human years. So I guess 6 human years have passed. But then in Oz, they can't really make a consensus on her age, and to them it's been 18 years. So yes, in their world it has been 18 years since she was last there. So that would make her 28, at least by their accounts. They say their accounts. And the way that the Oz people or the Munchkins count time is they don't really keep track of time, but they have a bunch of different rules. Like if there's enough rain for them to have a good corn harvest, then they count it as 2 months or something. It's a bunch of strange rules that it's like they figure it's so complicated that who the hell wants to, who's patient enough or has enough attention span to really care enough to keep track of time. So they bring her to a courtroom because I think Neil House is the name of their courtroom. And Dorothy is put on trial for, the homicide of the two sisters, Nessarose and Elphaba. And of course, Dorothy does say, well, the Munchkins seemed very rejoiceful when she killed the first Nessarose. When her house fell on the first witch and killed the witch, the Munchkins seem to be very glad that they're rid of that tyrant, which, yeah, I think they were. They did seem to be glad to get rid of her, but she was technically the official ruler of the Munchkin land. So even though most people really hated Nessarose and wanted to get rid of her, it was technically regicide, what Dorothy did. Regicide, so, Nessarose did have an important position. She was powerful, and then also Elphaba, I think. Well, they say since those two sisters were so magically gifted, maybe if they were able to live longer, they could have, combined forces and done whatever, made it a better place, or, I don't know, it kind of seems odd that the Munchkins are, having her on trial because they think she's a homicidal maniac, or she was on a crime spree or whatever, but, either way, that's what the story is about, mostly. The section is called the Judgment of Dorothy. And there are some animals in attendance, so capital A animals. So remember in Gregory MaGuire's book, if an animal was written with a capital letter, like a capital B for bear or capital L for lion, then that means the animal can talk like a human, and most of them have jobs like a human. Like at Dorothy's court trial, there was Tempest Bailey was the name of the owl. I think he was her lawyer. Yeah, he was her lawyer, Temper Bailey. He was an owl. And I guess during the trial, yes, Dorothy did keep saying that, well, I wasn't navigating that house. It just fell. It happened to fall. I had no idea. I did not intend for it to, crush someone to death, but, and, well, towards the end, they started to say they wanted to execute her. They think she was so guilty that, she deserved to be executed. And, she deserves to be executed. And, well, Burr happens to be there, the Cowardly Lion, one of the original people from her first. He was kind of trapped in the larder of the castle when they killed Elphaba the witch. And a side note I want to say about the witch and Kiamoko. Well, Kiamoko is the name of the castle. Yes, the castle that she lived in, Kiamoko. If you didn't know, or that's at least Fiero's castle, because Elphaba was not married to Fiero, but they had a child, so I don't know, when you have a child out of wedlock, like, is that, should they take the name of their father, or, well, now that I think of it, probably not, but, probably not, so, but the castle was named Kyamoko, and in the original wiki, there were several other women living there. There was Surima, his wife, or at least the one his parents picked out for him, and then all the children they had, which were, I think Manak was one, and then there was all the other sisters and a bunch of girls, which I forget their names. See, Kamoko is there. They're right by the mountains. So, unfortunately, the castle Kamoko is built on a cliff. Like, it's up a very long, very high, mountainous. It's like on the plateau of mountain. So, it's rocky. Just getting there is very, yeah, it's steep. It's very steep up there. And, the area is prone to earthquakes, or it gets an earthquake every once in a while, so, obviously that makes it hard to maintain the castle, so the castle is starting to fall apart, or it's just, whenever earthquakes happen, like, the buildings are damaged, and it's just sort of, it's still usable. It's still definitely functional as a castle, but it's, Rain was wondering how many more earthquakes before the entire castle falls apart. I guess after the, court trial, when people wanted to execute Dorothy, well, Burr and a few other of their tribe, like Skinnery and Lear, Rain, and I think Lil Daffy and Mr. Boss, they try to run away, and also Nor's with them, and Candle. They try to run away as fast as they can to, keep Dorothy safe. They didn't want her to be executed. So I think the place they run to is, I think, the old house of Elphaba, where, the Throps grew up, and I think Nor has Elphaba's old broom, and they hide the broom they put it up in the roof, the rafters of that cottage, and they kind of seal it so you can't see her broom. And then Rain is sent away to a school, like, I think a boarding school, or like an old girls' school. It's called St. Proud's. The name of the academy is St. Proud's, and so Rain lives there for a while, and she is put in a room that's kind of like in the attic, away from everyone else, all the other students. And after a while, she notices that there are some strange sounds coming from her cabinet, and eventually discovers that it is a boy named Tip, who is like a traveling, I guess he's on the run, or like he's a drifter, a stable boy, or something like that. Yeah, I think when the overseers, the officials, came on their horses, he was like the boy who maintains the horses, and he hid in her cabinet or whatever. So Rain starts asking for extra food, biscuits to take back to her room. And eventually the faculty of the Academy of St. Proud's do discover Pitt, or Tip. Tip is his name, but when they ask his name, he says his name is Pitt. So just his name backwards. Oh, and by the way, I should include that Rain was turned white by her parents. So, when her parents were shocked that she was green, and they automatically knew that this would be a terrible disadvantage for her, they had a talking fox and a talking snake. They made a deal with them where the snake and the fox knew how to perform a magic spell which turned Rain into to turn her skin white, to, I guess, disguise her true skin color. By the end of the book, she does turn green again, because, spells only last so long, and this took place over probably, let's see, in the beginning, Rain is maybe 10 years old, and at the end, I think she's like 18, so 8 years, or 8 or 9 years. So yeah, Dorothy definitely spent a lot more time in the in Oz than last time. So while Rain is at the academy, then everyone else from their family, their accidental family, their family that's not really family, they go back to Kamau, the castle where Elphaba lived. And then they find Nanny is still living there. Apparently, it's kind of surprising. I thought she'd be dead by now, but Nanny is she raised Elphaba. She was kind of Elphaba's wet nurse, Elphaba's mom was around, but Nanny was, I don't know, she was like their tutor or whatever, and apparently Nanny is still there. She's like obscenely old. She's incredibly old. Rain thinks she's over 1,000. So they hang out at the castle, and eventually Tip and Rain, they do sneak out of St. Proud, like after being there for quite a few years. They sneak out one night and they go all the way to the castle. Like they pass this beaver dam, and they get to the castle. It was a struggle getting up there because it's very it's steep. But once they get to the castle, they were in crying. They were in mourning once they got there, because her aunt, Rain's aunt, had died, because, since the Munchkinland army and also the Oz army, they're searching frantically for, one, the Grimoire, and also anyone who has the power to read it, because they think only the descendants of Elphaba, which are Lear and Rain, only they know how to read it. Only they have the capacity to read it. So they're searching for it. Like Lear's there, her father, and but the Munchkinland, some mercenaries come and kidnap him. They kill Nor. Because Nor was trying to protect him, since that's his sister. So they have a funeral for Nor, and let's see, someone else died, because at night they went out to the edge of like the cliff edge, the rocky ledge, and they either jumped off or slipped off because they either committed suicide or were just slept. Because, I don't know, it was, I think, Candle, because Candle couldn't handle having a daughter who was doomed to, like, be hunted down because she has green skin. Well, at this point, you cannot see that she's green, but it eventually does wear off. And once they leave, back at Chemico, the castle, Chistery, the monkey, when Alpha made those monkeys, those flying monkeys, there were at least 4 of them, and Chistery is the eldest. He has superiority or seniority. Who's like her favorite, the one that Alphabet talked to the most. But since Lear has been, kidnapped and taken by the Munchkinlanders, and Candle and Nora are no longer there, the possession of the castle goes to Rain. Rain owns the castle now, and so now she is able to go up to Alphaba's room and just see what her grandmother did. So the Alphaba's old room is described as having a cocodrillos, a dead cocodrillos hanging from a chain from the roof or the ceiling, and it is pickled in brine. So I guess a cocodrillos is just a tiny crocodile, I'm guessing. I don't really. Said there were 60 to 70 bat skeletons, just the skeletons of bats. There was a full mouth of teeth from a wolf skeleton, so that suggests that Alpha was collecting the teeth from wolves during her life. So there was a whole mouthful of teeth. Oh, and there were a bunch of umbrellas that had been drying for so long that they were in tattered shreds, like, they were starting to disintegrate, fall apart. So much that there were spiders had made webs in the places where the fabric was missing. Oh, and some, like, hooligan had put in dice in the empty eye sockets of the cocodrillos. So the cocodrillos had dice for eyes. And, well, Lear, as he is being taken from the castle to across the 1,000 Years grassland to the headquarters of Munchkinland, he, is suffering a lot. He has kind of a knot on his forehead from slipping and hitting his head on a boulder, and also his lip is sliced open when a person with a hand covered in chainmail slapped him across the face. Of course, he's exposed to the sun, so that's he's like sunburned, and I think, he's obviously dehydrated. I think that's it, and he sees those as badges of honor. Now, as the mercenaries are taking Lear across enemy lines, they need to disguise him as. They gave him a choice. He can either drink a potion that will turn him into an animal for an unknowable amount of time. It's not really known how long it will take, and the other choice was be stuffed in a sack. So and remain quiet. So he chose to drink the potion and turn into an animal, and the animal he became was a black elephant. Yes, he was turned into a black elephant, and then he meets up with Trism. Trism is his, I think, gay lover, and Trism revealed the whereabouts of Lear, but so they were talking for a while about, like, Lear thought, how could you give away my position? But then Trism showed Lear the his midsection, what was under his shirt, and showed that the enemy, the army, was torturing him to, reveal the secret. They were starting to peel off the skin from his stomach. So they kind of started at his waistline and went up to his, they got up to his, like, where the stomach ends and the chest begins. So, he endured all that torture, and then he just had to give away Lear's position. And then they kind of make their way to Loyal Oz, where Shell is the supreme leader. Because Dorothy and Shell Dorothy and Rain wanna have an audience with Shell to discuss some things. Like, they're looking for Rain's father. They're looking for Lear, and because they don't know which army took them. They don't know whether it was the Munchkinlanders or Loyal Oz. They don't know whether it was Munchkinlanders or Loyal Oz. Then Shell keeps referring to himself as his sacredness. His sacredness, that's, I guess, the title that was given to Shell, his sacredness. Shell considers himself to be immortal and divine, and well, for an immortal divine being, his clothes are very I guess humble, you would say, because the only clothes he was wearing are a loincloth and a skirt. So obviously it's not the kind of clothes that actual monarchs would wear. He was wearing I guess the bare minimum of clothes. And instead of a throne, it says he sat on a overturned bucket. It says that there was a magnificent looking throne behind him a few feet, but the throne remained empty. And when he was talking to his niece and Dorothy, he sat on an overturned bucket, because it's not really explained why, but whatever, I don't know. Oh, and I guess I should include that Dorothy is 16 at this point, so yes, it's been 6 human years since she's been there, but they claim it's 18 years. Then the Munchkinlanders do launch an attack of sending some dragons to, like, bomb the capital of Oz, the Emerald City. So yeah, dragons invade the city of Oz, and everything is destroyed, almost like there's a bomb that went off, or an earthquake, almost like an earthquake. And then the accidental family, which is, Rain, Dorothy, Lear, the Cowardly Lion, well, Nora is dead at this point, Candle is still there, and Lear and Skinner the goose. They live in, also, Mr. Boss and Lil Daffy. They live under a bridge, because, most people, after the attack in the Emerald City, most people are homeless, so a lot of people are living under a bridge. So yes, the Munchkinlanders won in the end. Munchkinland did overcome Oz, and Munchkinland did overcome Oz, and yes, Dorothy thought maybe she should look for work, and then the Cowardly Lion and Dorothy start having a long conversation, like a heart-to-heart conversation, and she talks about free will. She reflects a little on free will. Like, she thinks there is not really any free will because, like, she didn't choose to be born in Kansas. She could have just as easily been born in China or Italy or wherever, Kenya or whatever. And she didn't choose to be born an orphan. She didn't, choose that her parents would already be dead when she was born. Or I guess they died when she was very, very young, and yeah, she didn't choose that there was an earthquake when they were in San Francisco. So, the idea of free will is, I don't know, this book, not, I mean, this isn't one of the subjects of this book, but it is mentioned. They do briefly mention it. Oh, so at the end, after Dorothy is able to go back home, which I'll tell you that the way Dorothy went home this time was by another whirlwind. So they did have the grimoire, and there was a spell in it for Taken by the Wind. I think it's called Taken by the Wind, or Gone with the Wind, and since a whirlwind, a twister brought her the first time, then maybe a whirlwind can take Dorothy away back to Kansas. So that's really the last we hear of her. Like, Rain says the spell to make the wind blow Dorothy away to Kansas, and presumably she's back in Kansas. She did take Toto with her, because actually after the attack on Emerald City, when a lot of buildings were demolished in the ruins, they do find Toto. Toto came out again, and so that's the last we hear of Dorothy. And well, one thing I want to mention about Dorothy is she had this habit of singing, especially songs about patriotism and her home Kansas and the USA. Of course, everyone in Oz, they hated it so much they tried to plug their ears, and they were like in tears, and they would pay her not to do it. They pay her not to sing. And by the end, Rain's family, which I think Lear and Kendall are still around at this point. So it's Lear, Kendall, and Rain. And by the end of the story, Rain is fully green. Like the whiteness of the spell has totally worn off, and she's green. And they take Elphaba's broom and they stick it in the ground, so almost like a tree, so it stands up like a tree. And they buried the grimoire, the book of magic, under it because it was in possession of the lion, since the lion was the emperor of Oz. But the lion did take possession of the grimoire at first, but he thought the book is too dangerous. It's caused nothing but misery, so he gave the book away to Rain, and please don't bring it back to me, he said. And well, he knew Rain's the only one who can really read it, so they buried the grimoire under the broom, and they think that's going to last through the winter, so they leave that for a winter season. And in the spring, they find that the broom was nourished by the magic of the grimoire, and the broom became a tree. It grew into a tree and sprung green vines, and so it became a broom tree. It grew other brooms like Elphaba's, and after a while, in the night after her parents were asleep, and also Skinnery the goose, who I guess is Lur's like familiar watchdog or just someone to help keep an eye on his daughter, Rain. In the night, she takes her father's spade and she digs up the grimory and she takes a broom, one of the brooms off the tree, and then she starts walking away into, to live as like a hermit or, just travel and as a drifter or whatever. And all she has is her conch shell, which, she has her conch shell, which I don't know why they kept mentioning it, because it's not like a magic conch shell or anything, but, that was, a constant throughout the story. She had a conch shell, because I guess it's like way to remember her parents or something, and, well, this video is long enough, so I'm gonna sign off. Thanks for watching, Out of Oz by Gregory MaGuire.